This is Greg Vincent with AgWeb. Livestock editor with Farm Journal magazine Sarah Brown and I recently sat down with Wayne Pacelle of the Humane Society.
But here's the point. We do need to discuss these issues and we need to find a pathway forward on them. We want to have dialogue with the agriculture community. The cattlemen's association, I don't even understand what the arguments are. The only issue that we have criticized with respect to the cattle industry has been the downer issue, which so many ranchers and farmers agree with us on. So I think we've got to get past the demonizing and all this false portrait of HSUS and really speak about the issues.
So one of the issues that I think is very popular in the ag industry anyway about the Humane Society is the budget and the funding and where the budget is spent. Would you care to address that?
Absolutely. I'm really delighted to address it because there's a DC group that's been hired to essentially do a brand attack on the Humane Society, and they have just pushed out all sorts of false information. Now, the Humane Society of the United States, screams from the pulpits and from every parapet, every place about who we are and what we are. All you need to do is look at our website. You can see the diversity of issues that we address. Never in any communication during the history of the organization have we said that we run the nation's animal shelters. We have it on our website that we don't run the shelters. We support the shelters. We help set standards. We publish the magazine for the field called Animal Sheltering. We have the National Trade Show. There's no group that runs all the shelters. You cannot measure the direct care work of an organization by saying, well, the only stuff that counts are the grants that they give to local shelters. We have the biggest network of animal care centers in the United States. We have a national veterinary corps that deals with thousands of animals. We treat them in rural areas where there are no vets and where people don't have enough money to handle them, and we do it because that's the right thing. We also have an emergency response unit that deploys to raid cockfights and dog fights, help with hoarding cases, deal with puppy mills that go awry, deal with any sort of animal crisis situation. We spend millions, tens of millions on direct care of animals. So it's completely false for someone to say that, well, the Humane Society spends 1% of its money on animal care when they're defining animal care as just giving a grant to another organization. We have our own experts. We have our own staff that do animal care. We don't need to give money to another group to do animal care.
How much money do you spend directly on animal research through the Humane Society?
Well, I don't know off the top of my head animal research. We try not to do
welfare research about finding out what really is best for any type of animal.
Well, we don't need to do research to say that dog fighting is wrong. It's wrong, and we stop it. Cockfighting is wrong. Let's
go back to the ag community.
Yeah.
What about?
We have an agreement with the Ohio groups to both spend money on research to solve some of these issues and to give farmers best practices in moving forward with animal production strategies. But the whole thing that HSUS is one group. What do all the farm groups spend on research? Why is all the scrutiny on HSUS about trying to micromanage everything that we do? We do things because that's what our board and that's what our members want. And we protect more animals than any group in the country. The reason that groups are concerned about us is because we're very effective, not the opposite, that we're ineffective. And really, I think people need to fairly look at our website and our information, and you'll see the depth and breadth of the work of the organization.
What credibility does Humane Society offer more than the veterinarians and the industry professionals that farmers are likely to trust? They're very trusting of industry professionals, university researchers. Yeah. Where does that research and where does that authority come from the Humane Society?
Well, the authority comes, these are moral questions. The Humane Society has veterinarians, it has animal scientists, it has a whole scientific cadre of people. We're not saying that we need to germinate every idea, just like no individual association needs to germinate every idea about animal welfare. Science happens in a lot of places, and you aggregate that information and you move forward with the best information in order to make science-based decisions. But science alone doesn't give you answers. Science and values together give you answers. And that's where the Humane Society has moved forward, whether it's downer cows. I don't think you need a lot of science to say it's wrong to drag or harass or torment an animal who can't walk. Right. Now, there is some scientific information. You could look at the E. coli loads, you can look at the animal wallowing in manure, and say that yes, there may be some safety problem there, But you know, all of these things are a balance between science and values, and the Humane Society is an actor in this larger debate about how animals are treated. And you know, one can choose to be completely adversarial about it and say the Humane Society is, you know, they don't do enough of this, or they don't do enough of that, or we can begin to have a dialogue to solve some of these issues, because I assure you that the initiative process is not the way that we want to solve the issues. We want to have a discussion and move forward cooperatively. And Ohio provides a great case example of how to do that. Thanks very much. You have one last question, or?
I have one last question. After the horse slaughter ban is done,
I don't want to get into the. It's a big discussion.
It is a very, very big discussion.
Yeah,
but
and I don't want to do it as my last question with you. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I've got very strong feelings on the subject, but I don't want to.
Well, my question is not so much about that situation, but as the results, the consequences, and kind of.
Well, the consequence, that is the issue. So why don't we talk about that at another time when we have time to get into it?
Okay.
Because
I think you reach out to Jordan and we can spend
Yeah.
time.
That'd be great.
Good.
Okay.